While breathing up and preparing for a dive, I spend some time observing what's around me on the surface, mainly particles of little debris. But oftentimes there is life, although my camera is not good enough to capture it. Luckily for me, the sunlight was hitting just in the right spot, and you can see thousands of jellyfish that I wasn't even aware were around me at the time. But lucky for me, I didn't get any stings. And you normally find stingers in warmer water conditions and warmer weather conditions in the southwest. Freediving has really opened the door to almost a form of meditation, and slowing everything down and just observing what's going on within myself, what's going on in the environment outside of me, is something I always struggled with. And I've spent so much time building tolerances to oxygen and CO2. It's been such a big commitment, and spending all my time around the various marine species at the jetty. Naturally, I want to learn more, and there's always something new beyond just what they're called. So these guys are the old wives, and they're very famous in the southwest of our state. And if you look at the back of their body, it almost appears to be an extra long fin. Well, it's closer to a spine, and it contains a mild venom. And how they got their name is due to their stress response. So upon fishermen reeling these guys in, they would make a very distinct grinding noise with their teeth. And no one's proud of it. It's a little bit derogatory. This would have been around 1790 when they started to get recognized more and more. Blue devil are a particularly shy species, and you'll mainly find them hiding under ledges or even underwater caves. They have markings all over their body. They're almost neon or iridescent blue dots. And they are unique to each fish, so scientists can actually use them as a way of tracking the exact blue devil throughout the reef. And they're an indicator that their ecosystem is healthy. So they're homebodies, and they tend to stay in the same reef system for decades at a time. And the overall lifespan reaches around 50 to 60 years, as it seems from my research. So there's actually a good variety of fish that can change gender. And an example is the banded sea perch. They're what's called a protogynous hermaphrodite. So after a few breeding cycles, they'll transition from a female to a male. Western Talmas are omnivores. They can graze on algae and even eat sea worms. They have an almost elongated snouts, which help them pick in awkward little angles and crevices of the reef for food. And in their youth, they have something that's called an ocellus, or a false eye spot. And it's believed that this confuses predators and even intimidates them, because no matter where they look, they're being watched. If you look at the stomach of this goatfish, you can watch it actually change its coloration. And despite it being almost an overlooked species, so much is going on in the ocean that you have to constantly pay attention. This is the first time I've seen it happen in real time. So leatherjackets tend to be the species that are quite curious and almost have the biggest personality in the whole reef system. and they can be very accustomed and even approach divers. And what I personally love about them is a spine on their top of the head can almost give you an indication of exactly what they're feeling. And if it's raised, it could be a little bit of a stress or a curiosity response. And if you look at the front of the mouth, they have almost what looks like a beak. And you may not see it, but they actually have teeth as well. Crested Morwongs are almost like underwater sieves. So if you're lucky enough to watch them feed, they'll actually take in big mouthfuls of sand and filter out worms and small crustaceans from it. And another thing is, if you find a juvenile, it's very, very intriguing to watch. I don't see it much in adults, as they tend to be calmer, generally speaking. They actually seem to be able to manipulate their fin, either compress it or raise it, as a form of communication. Almost like a leatherjacket, except it's not a spine. And this is another one of the species that I would often spend a lot of time overlooking once I recognized what this type of fish was. I paid way less attention, but I'm continually learning that basically all species need to be watched often, because there's so much going on that can be completely overlooked or forgotten. And there's just something so peaceful in watching the whole ecosystem function almost as if you're not there, and watching fish just carry on as a day, treating you like you're just almost normal to them, and they feel safe enough to forage for food despite there being such a foreign big creature next to them. It's very relieving and super grounding, to be honest, reminds me I'm part of something. And wavy grubfish are generally hard to spot, but it doesn't mean they don't have a temper. They're actually known to be a somewhat aggressive species of fish, and they'll defend little burrows where they spend most of their time. And the sand just has so much life. More of the ocean is actually benthic or reliant on the seafloor than you'd ever picture. Whether they're blended in perfectly or they're little creatures less than 10 centimeters. Regardless of what you think, if you're patient enough, there is always something going on. There's always something to observe. And that's why I love the ocean so much. Even in a familiar dive site, there's just an abundance. Gurnard Perch are in the family of stonefish, but they're nowhere near as potent with their venom, luckily. They're actually a very docile fish as well. They'll be basically motionless for hours, if not a whole day at a time, waiting for a small fish to not recognize him as a creature, and all of a sudden he'll ambush and gobble them up. Samsonfish are probably one of the largest in the Busselton Jetties, generally seen marine species. And they're one that you once you see them, you have to take that opportunity. You have to dive straight down. And generally, if you stay on the surface too long, they're gone by the time you even consider it. You spot this big fella and you hop down. Sometimes they'll be curious and they'll actually do laps, but more often than not, it's almost a bit of a glimpse.